Okay, everyone, it is 3:31, so we're going to go ahead and get going. For those of you who are already here, welcome, and thank you for joining us for the final event at the Philly Family Pride Family Matters Conference. We are members of COLAGE, which is the only national organization dedicated exclusively to children of LGBTQ parents. My name is Jordan Budd. I'm the executive director. And you have here on your screen Katie Christian and Elior Zaremba, who are both members of our our Youth Action Board. And we have a third person, Michaela, who's having some internet issues and is going to be joining us very shortly. But before we really dive in, I just want to give some housekeeping updates for those of you who are watching along. If you have questions for the group that you'd like to ask, feel free to direct those to me personally, or if you'd like, you can put them in the general chat. Whichever way is fine. We'll go ahead and get those questions and have them answered for you by our wonderful panelists. If something comes up and you want clarification or anything like that, just flag me in the chat and I'll be happy to ask clarifying questions to our panelists. And with that, I will let Elior and Katie introduce themselves while I send Michaela the link that she just asked for.
Okay, I can go first. I'm Katie Christian. I have been a Youth Action Board member for COLAGE for about a year now. I'm a senior in high school and I'm from the Metro Detroit area. And I go by she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Elior. I have been a part of the this COLAGE board, or whatever you want to call it, for just a couple months now. I live north of Boston. I'm a freshman in high school, and I go by he, him pronouns.
Awesome, thank you very much. And again, for those of you who are just joining, my name is Jordan Budd. I'm executive director of COLAGE, which is an organization dedicated to people with LGBTQ parents and caregivers. And this is the final event for Philly Family Pride's Family Matters Conference 2021. And we actually have Stephanie Haynes here from Philly Family Pride. Stephanie, is there anything you'd like to say before we go ahead and get started?
Not a thing. I mean, just thank you so much. And I'm just always so appreciative of everything that COLAGE does for the bigger our kids. And this is always, a favorite of our conference every year, this panel, hearing from youth. So thank you to Jordan and to Katie and Elior for being here and sharing. And Michaela, who I see is also just joined.
Yes, we have Michaela now. Michaela, thank you so much for joining. Elior and Katie just introduced themselves. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Michaela Santisi. I use pronouns she, her. I have two moms and I'm a junior in high school.
And where do you live?
Oh, I live right outside of Philly.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started with our first question. Again, for those in the audience, if you have questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to type them in the chat, send them directly to me at COLAGE National or generically in the chat, and we'll make sure that they get asked. So first and foremost, it's November, but we're just really settling into our school schedules for the year. How are things going with everything that is going on in terms of COVID and the country at large? How are you feeling? What's going on?
For me, it's definitely been quite a roller coaster. I pretty much missed most of my high school career or high school life, I guess you could say, has been spent in COVID. We went into lockdown when I was a sophomore and I'm now a senior. So I would say I'm pretty used to the COVID system at this point. And for me, that's really just what high school is. It's sort of with all of these pandemic procedures in place. And I would say, especially, again, I live in Metro Detroit, and my school has done a really good job of accommodating and also making sure all kids, despite socioeconomic status and just things like that, have equal opportunities. So I'm really fortunate there.
I feel like everything's been going kind of crazy. I haven't been able to see my entire grade without masks in forever. So it's been pretty weird, but I feel like everything other than that, getting to see people is pretty nice. So
Yeah, for me, school has also been a little hectic. I at my school, like we have masks and everything, we have precautions, but I feel like it's kind of hard to reset back into how things usually go. Like to study and like strategizing with that, and just like, there's different factors, new factors that you have to get back into, which is kind of hard, but I, like Katie said, I'm pretty used to it at this point. But it still sucks, COVID and everything.
So from the perspective of being in a queer family, do you think that there's anything that's different for you in how you've been navigating the pandemic as opposed to other friends your age that don't have queer parents?
I guess, well, for me, first of all, I actually joined Collage during the pandemic. It sort of encouraged me to reconnect or rekindle that community. And especially, it's wonderful because Collage is a largely virtual organization. So I think that's really helpful. And then so because a lot of my school system switched to virtual, or at least temporarily, it made me feel a lot more comfortable with the virtual system. But then also, I guess, the online system, it sort of takes away human interactions a little bit. So you're not really, so for example, you don't really have lunch, or at least we didn't for a while. Like I remember the first year that we went through COVID. So it sort of took away the stigma with our families that we would typically experience in school, just because you're not talking about your families over Zoom. That's more so just something that casually comes up maybe in your day-to-day life when you're in person, but when you're on Zoom, it's really just it's sort of individual. I wouldn't say I prefer it for that sense, but it definitely has taken off the pressure of even just thinking about our families, because when you're online, it just isn't really something that even comes up. So, yeah.
For me, in the beginning of COVID, it was a little bit rough on that side, just because people thought that they could, like, there's a setting on Zoom that you can chat with like your friends or whatever, and they were saying like homophobics slurs and stuff like that because they thought they had like the freedom to. In the beginning, it's nothing like that now, and we don't really use Zoom like that anymore. And I feel like being in person, I feel like, I don't know, that there's more clarity. I don't, like, in school, everyone minds their own business, everyone does their own thing. So I actually prefer being in person for that. Just because, like I said, everyone minds their own business, and no one really even talks about that type of stuff. And if they do, it's in a positive manner.
uh, it it didn't affect me that much personally, but it was just more of a human interaction. me being in the same place for 9 months, you know? So that was pretty much it.
Were those kinds of interactions always something that was somewhat stressful for you, Katie? Or is that more of a high school thing or more of a post-COVID thing?
I would say for me, the stigma I faced towards my family or the microaggressions, I guess you could say, was definitely more of a middle school thing. And so obviously, COVID really affected me during high school. And so I don't know if it carried over and if it was because of the online format that I didn't really experience the same microaggressions, or if it was simply just the fact that I was in high school. So yeah, that's sort of my take on it. I'm not sure about that. But I do think I didn't experience what Michaela experienced with people. People in my school didn't really use the chat unless it was answering teacher questions, it was more so just texting our friends off to the side. But anyways, I found that the virtual format, I never really experienced the microaggressions at the same rate as I did before, because again, with COVID, you're not really interacting as much with people online. And it's a lot more calculated and planned, everything that you're saying. Whereas when it's actually in person, I mean, people can say things that they don't mean without even thinking about it. Whereas obviously online, you think it through a lot more before. So.
Anyone else have anything to add on that? So out of curiosity, I get asked this a lot as the executive director. From your perspective, would you say, knowing what you know about the history of this country and our families and the gay rights movement in general, do you think we're in a better place now? Do you think things have really gotten better? Is that your experience? Or would you say that things have largely stayed the same or not really changed very much?
I think things have gotten better since it started, but I don't think it's perfect. It's it. I mean, it'll never be perfect. It'll just be as good as you can get it to be. So, yeah, I feel like it's a lot better now.
Yeah, I feel like there are definitely some changes and things, and we're slowly moving forward with everything. It's not drastic though, like there's small changes and it's like small steps, but that's better than staying where we are or moving backwards.
I do agree with what Eleor and Michaela said, where it's small changes, and especially people think that the ruling of Obergefell versus Hodges really was the only thing affecting our families. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that was the legalization of same-sex marriage was a huge improvement for our families. Like it just, it clarify it. What is it? It identified the existence of our families, and that was a huge step forward. But there's still many challenges that our families face. Like, for example, I know in my state, my parents can both still be fired for their sexuality. And so like at their workplace, they don't even mention it because it's definitely something that we constantly think about. So there are some improvements, but there's still a lot that needs to be done for us to feel safe and secure. So.
Would you say that you are one of a few queer families in your area, one of the only queer families in your area, or one of many queer families in your area?
For me, I know a couple people, but it's not huge. I think including me, there's like 3. So, but it's cool because, I get to talk to the families. I'm close with the families. And it's nice to share experiences, especially with one family. They have an older daughter who went through my own high school. So it's very cool to talk to her about things. But there's definitely not a lot of people. So I constantly get questions about it, which is, I like to educate people on, queer families. So I'm not really opposed to it. But because of that, just there's not a lot of people, not a lot of family structures like mine in my area.
For me, so my parents were both from very rural parts of Michigan. So a big part of them feeling a little bit safe was knowing other families like ours. So I know when I was little, I was first introduced to collage because my parents found it and found the Michigan chapter, and sort of we would go there every year for Family Week in Michigan. And from there, I met a bunch of families like mine. So I probably know like at least 20 families like mine, but that's all across Michigan. And my parents, they really worked to find those families. Like, it took a lot of effort. They didn't just happen to know them. It was a lot of effort. And but then at my school, for example, I have had several teachers tell my parents at conference that I'm like, my school's at least 20 years old, maybe 30. And they say like my family is the only one that they've ever known that had gay parents. Now, I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure at least one person has had a gay parent in my school, but the fact that, I know at least no one in my grade has one, or they don't know if they have a gay parent at the very least. So it is a little bit isolating there. But like I said, my parents have done a wonderful job of making sure that I do know kids with families like mine in my area.
I so I don't know that many people in my town that have a family structure like mine. Um, but my family knows a ton of other families in within the region. Um, so yeah, I'm the only kid in my entire grade. It's a two-town school, so that you'd expect there to be at least another family, but I'm the only kid in my grade with a family with two dads. So
I'm on mute. I have a question from the audience. Michaela, you said that you still get asked a lot of questions, and they're curious about what kinds of questions you get asked.
Oh yeah, okay. So some of the questions I get asked is about like how I came into the picture, like kind of um like I'm adopted, and it's really obvious that I'm adopted because all my family members are white, so it's a little obvious. So they always ask me questions about adoption, and I do get a little angry at the fact that they ask like where are my real parents because I'm adopted. And it's just like one of those things where I kind of have to talk to them about, like these are my real parents. That's what adoption is. And I have to explain like how I call them my birth parents. And I'm grateful for them. And we don't have contact. We talk if I have contact with them. And if it's legal for them to contact me because I'm 17, I'm not 18 yet. So I get asked about that stuff. I get asked like about my siblings too, because I have two siblings who are also adopted. They asked about that. It's really more about the adoption. I don't think it's not really any questions about like my parents. It's more about like me and like adoption wise that I've been asked. But I have been able to give them answers that help them understand about the process and the right terms to use when it comes to the process, which I'm very, grateful for, to help people in my community with that stuff and make them more aware.
Katie or Eleanor, do you have experiences being asked questions like that? And what are the most common questions you get asked, and how do you answer them?
I've only been asked once or twice, but my friend was asking, where was I adopted from? And what the whole history was. And I don't know why, but I just got a little upset with him for asking it. It felt a little weird that he was asking a very natural question that anybody would probably ask. So
for me, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I have two moms, and I have a sperm donor. So for me, the questions are definitely very uncomfortable. I've had very uncomfortable questions. So I guess it's mostly just, what exactly does that mean? I don't always feel comfortable, or I also have people asking me, because I'm the same ethnicity. My parents are, well, actually, no, only one of my parents is white, but I am also white. So, and I'm usually, anyways, only one of my parents is white, but one of my parents is white. So then they can see that for the most part, they usually assume that I'm not adopted, which is true. So then I have people who have sometimes mistakenly thought I was, like, my mom had an affair or something before and then had me and then came out as gay, or something like, or just a lot of people have a lot of very strange questions about how donor insemination works, which I don't really feel like it's my job to explain that. And I wish it wasn't something that's so stigmatized or such an uncomfortable topic, or I wish it was something that more people were educated on. And also, I just have obviously the typical, like, strange collage questions. But I would say, like, that's the main thing, is that people don't know how donor conceived works. And that's not the most fun to explain.
So one follow-up question is, because it doesn't sound like there are so many queer families in your direct area, or like in your grade, you're not sharing a ton of space with other collagers on the day-to-day. How did you come across Collage or Philly Family Pride or any other local organization that facilitates these kinds of interactions? How do you keep involved and stay in community with people with similar experiences?
For me, my ever since I was little, I've been going to Provincetown. I've been involved in Philly Pride. My parents made it very clear that it's important to see families like mine. They never wanted me to feel isolated by any chance. They wanted me to see families like similar family structures, which has been really helpful. And it's nice to stay in touch with people that way. So I've always been, involved in Philly Pride, especially since I'm from Philly. So yeah, for me.
For me, I sort of explained it already, but like I said, my parents were both from very rural areas of Michigan. So, and they were not accepted. I mean, one of my moms is brown. And so that was already, being brown and gay was not exactly the easiest in very rural Michigan. And so my parents actually came to a more city area, just because, and found a lot more acceptance there. There's our Michigan's largest LGBTQ center is actually in our neighborhood. And so my parents used that sort of as a resource, and then from there found out about Collage. That community center also had parent play groups as well, which was really helpful. That's how we found a lot of the families that are in our area. And then obviously with COLAGE, I know a lot of the COLAGE chapters have sort of shut down. It's mostly just the national board at this point. But I myself am actually reviving the Michigan COLAGE chapter. And I think COLAGE in general is just a really great resource. It's the only organization for children like us. And I would say it's the best resource for getting to know those other types of families. So.
Can I just jump in 1 second to say one of Michaela's parents was actually on the board and was one of the people who started our first conference 12 years ago. So just shout out to Marla and Michaela's parent for that.
We love that.
Yeah, and I know I'm hesitating to be the person who says this, but I want to say, I remember, Michaela, when you were little and we saw you in P-Town and your parents were pushing a triple stroller with your siblings and you, and anyway.
My parents, you know, I have a ton of aunts and uncles who are lesbian and gay, so it was so normal to me that I never saw a real difference, or I never really learned about it until I came to COLAGE. So it was just a thing, kind of a normal. It was one of those things I just was kind of blind to. Like I never saw that there was like the different things. Yeah.
So we have a question for Katie. Are you in touch with your donor or any donor siblings? And if you are, how is that relationship? And if you're not, if you care to share more about what the situation is.
Yeah, for sure. That's another question that I get asked a lot. So my parents did end up, I know there's certain websites where you can meet donor siblings. And so my parents from like as soon as I was born, they jumped on those websites too. Or I know like our donor facility told them or about like a specific website or app group or something where they can meet other donor people or people with the same donor as me. And so my parents really wanted to make sure that I would have that resource moving forward in case I ever was interested in it. So I actually met, I believe, I'm trying to count. I met two, there were two from that we met. Wait, no, two or three that we met. And so I think and they were also from Michigan. They lived in the Michigan area, not in my area, not in the Detroit area, but they lived across Michigan. So when I was maybe like 10 or so, they wanted us to meet each other just to see how, if that was a relationship that us kids wanted to continue or things like that. So I did end up meeting, I think it was two at that point. I did end up meeting the other two. And it was never something, it never, I'm an only child. I don't have any other siblings, but it didn't feel like my family, like it's cool that these people are technically genetically related to me as half siblings, but it's just, I know like for people that don't have a bunch of half siblings, it probably seems weird, but they don't really feel like my family to me. They never have. So it was never anything I was interested in. And then we ended up finding several more. I think we found two more through that app later. I never ended up meeting them, but our parents are all like Facebook friends. So I know of them. I know what their life is like what their interests and things like that. and it is a little bit interesting. And then I ended up doing 23andMe just because I was interested in my heritage, because obviously when you have a donor, you don't really know. So I ended up doing that, and then I found one other donor sibling for that. And then I ended up sharing with him the information just because he didn't know any of us. And so now he's also in like that little group. And so I have 5, I believe, donor siblings that I know of. But again, it's never something I have been interested in. But I do think it's interesting just to have that information. And then also our parents share medical histories with our health, just in case there's anything that could possibly be genetic. So our parents shared that just for things to look out for. And then actually one of my donor siblings ended up doing ancestry.com, and through there found my donor. So I know what he looks like. I know what my donor, even though it was anonymous, I know now what he looks like, his name and where he lives. But again, it's not something that interests me. It's not something I care about, and it doesn't, but I do appreciate that my parents have been very open about it and have continued those relationships just in case it ever was something that I wanted to know more about. So yeah.
Are any of them collagers?
Yeah, actually, I believe I think 3 out of 5 of them are. And one of them, I think 4 out of 5 of them are. So yeah, I guess that's sort of funny that a lot of them are collagers, but yeah, I think 4 out of 5 and then you also include me. So 5 out of 6 of us are collagers. Yeah.
It's a lot of collager density. Elior and Michaela, do you have any birth siblings that you know of? Do you have relationships with them if you do?
Actually, my younger siblings who are twins, they're actually my half siblings. We have the same birth mom. And so my parents saw that we had the same birth mom, and they decided to adopt us all together, which was really cool. I really appreciate my parents doing that. I know of, on my birth dad's side, has kids. 2 of them are actually adopted as well. They were twins, and they're in Italy, which is really cool. And then my birth mom has on her side has some kids as well. But I'm not like Katie, like I'm not really interested in it as much. Like I don't really want to get in touch, especially since, I'm still in high school. I'm still going through like high school things. Maybe in the future when I'm older, would get more interested and reach out in that aspect. But for right now, it's good to know of, birth siblings and family. But I'm not at the stage to meet them like emotionally. But maybe in the future.
I've got 2 birth sisters, and I know both of them. I also know my birth mom, and I'm I'd like to hang out with them more because I've only met them twice, but they're really nice. And yeah, that's all I can really say.
I am not a teen, but I also have a bunch of half siblings. All of my siblings are half siblings. Actually, I'm technically an only child. And my story is very similar to yours, to both of you, to all of you. I waited until I was much older to really investigate any of that. And it is it's just been not something that I think too much about, really, outside of the siblings that I lived with, really. Katie, I'm glad you saw Stephanie thanked you for sharing all that. I just want to make sure everyone's up to speed on what's going on in the chat. Moving forward, I was interested if any of you have thoughts about how your parents have influenced you. I'm just really curious about what kinds of hobbies and movies or music or whatever you really like that very clearly came from your parents, and bonus points if they're gay.
I can for sure answer this. My parents are really into like the classic gay culture, like RuPaul's Drag Race, absolutely love. And I mean, I know I myself am actually, I identify as straight, but I feel very much a part of the gay community because I've just been raised in it. And I think that's whether I think any collager, no matter their sexuality or gender identity, feels the same way. Um, and so I absolutely love RuPaul's Drag Race. It's my favorite. And I would say that's the biggest one, like the most classic one that comes to mind. But I'll let you know if I think of any other.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is this like Love Shack Baby. That song is our national anthem. I'm telling you right now, it is our Wi-Fi name. Like it is all like that's our anthem in this household. I love it. They have fabulous music taste. And one thing I learned from my parents, besides like music and stuff, is just like a lot of people think that they influence me or like my family. They're like, because they're gay, like they're gonna make you gay. And I just like that's something that's the one thing that I've learned is through having two moms is they just show you like a little part of sexuality. Like like having gay parents, they're very understanding and they don't care whatsoever. Like they just want to make sure that I'm in a healthy relationship with whoever I'm with. And it influences me to find myself, find my identity, and same with my siblings too. So because of that, like, I've been underneath their wing most of the time, but like with music and certain things. But one of the things that I've learned is definitely to find myself and not be influenced by others and their opinions. So I love them for that.
In my household, my parents really love old music like the Beatles and stuff. So when I was like 3, I decided to play Yellow Submarine like 40 times a day. I made them regret it like for a month. But I don't think I watch anything that's LGBT. I've seen a single episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, but that's about it. And really, they're just Trekkies, and that's really what they've me interested in.
That tracks, I have to say. I'm curious, just going into the old hits, what's your favorite part of being a member of a queer family?
I like just the life lessons, like having queer parents, like I mentioned. They're open to everything, open to questions, open to a variety of things. And that's so amazing. Like I have like having queer parents just so supportive of everything I do, everything that I want to do. I love going to Provincetown. We haven't done that because of COVID recently, which sucks, but I'm going this year in the summer, which is very exciting. Yeah, I get to see everyone. We make that, it's really a tradition at this point. Like every year we would go. And just going down there with my family means a lot to me. And that's probably the highlight of my family, is just going down there. But we have those like funny things that happen just like any other family, and I feel really close with them. And my friends, even my friends, feel close to them. They always joke, they're like, wow, I have two moms who can cook, like that's incredible. And like they'll always come over for dinner. And like I am lucky to have parents who are supportive not only of me but of my friends and everyone that they come across with.
Something that's kind of nice is just being exposed to the culture, all that cool stuff. And then also just having twice as much family, my birth family and then my adopted family. So that's just something I really like.
I'm gonna have to agree with Ellie or Michaela that I think the best thing is just, like the life lessons. I think having two moms, I know that you can have gay parents and it can be absolutely nothing to, you can just have, well, for the most part, like it just, you don't have to be involved in the LGBTQ community if you don't want to be, but you also have that wonderful connection to it and you can really take advantage of it. And it can just, like I live in a very, Michigan is not the most liberal state, it just isn't. And my parents are very liberal people and forward thinking people. And I don't know if I would have had that mindset if it wasn't for who my parents are. And so, you know what, I'm just really thankful for that. I'm really thankful to have been so involved and to be a part of the LGBT or be born into the LGBTQ community. And again, it's just made me such a stronger person. And if you're a collager, it doesn't have to. You can just be a collager, not really do anything about it. But at the same time, you can do something about it and really tap into that community. So, yeah.
What would you say is the one thing about your area, your state, the country that you would want to see that is different, that will have a positive impact on your family and families like yours? And what would that impact be?
I can get it started. For me, like I said earlier, the biggest thing is job stability, and not fearing that my parents could actually be fired simply for being gay. Like that's insane to me, and it's really, really scary. And I know that when Obergefell versus Hodges was in court, there was a big discussion of, well, what's more important? Having marriage rights or having job equality rights. And I know that there was I can't remember the exact case, but there was some sort of job equality case, but I know it doesn't fully I don't know, it's strange. I don't fully know the legal changes. I just know in Michigan, it's still not entirely, you can still be fired based on the basis of sexuality. I'm not 100% on other states of how it is. I just that's the main thing that would be the biggest change. And then also just family laws being more inclusive and not saying father and mother, but using more inclusive pronouns, which I know is something that Collage is definitely looking into and trying to educate other collagers on right now. So
For me, in my area at least, I don't feel like we're going backwards. at all, and I don't feel like it's like stayed the same. But I feel like one thing we could work on, at least in my area, and other areas too, if this is the same, but just education more on um like sex and like the sex education, because in our school, you only learn about, straight couples and, how that goes. And there's really not an option for people who are gay or in the LGBTQ community. And I feel like that would be a step forward. I feel like a lot of people think it's uncomfortable, but sex conversations in general are uncomfortable. Like that's just what's going to be. So for me and at my school, we should move forward in that direction, because it really helps with kids and their thinking. Because a lot of people think, well, if we teach this, then we're influencing them for being gay. But that's not what it's going to do. It's really just going to keep everyone's mind open and just out there. Like everyone needs to know, in my opinion, so they can find themselves in their identity. It doesn't have to go with everyone, but in my area and probably for other areas, there should definitely be some more sex education wise.
I feel like if there was more racial and sexuality diverse, if my area was more diverse in that way, I feel like it would be a lot better, because not only am I the only kid in my entire grade with gay parents, I'm also the only Black kid. And, if there was more diversity, it would also help educate people.
As we approach the end of our hour, I have one final question that I wanted to ask before we do some closing thoughts. And that question is, in the same vein, if there was one thing that you could have your parents do that you would like to see change, and not like, staying up later, but like something real, what would that be, and what would the impact be for you?
I honestly don't have one. I can't really think of anything. I feel like my parents have exposed me to um everything I need to know. They've given me information about my birth family. They've given me opportunities for collage and being involved in collage. They've given me opportunities just to explore on my own as well, with the LGBTQ community. Um, and they've given me a lot of space. I really appreciate the space. Because especially going through high school, you're trying to navigate through life, and they've been doing a great job of letting me know that they're there for me, and letting me know that they're there whenever I need it, but letting me, go my own way, in terms of identity and in terms of, finding where I belong in the community, and, my choices on how to go further if I want to do more things that involve collage or involve spreading education wise. Like they've been really good about that. So I can't really think of anything.
Oh, Eleanor, do you want to go first?
You can go.
Okay, I agree with Michaela. I feel like my parents have done a really good job, and I don't really have any critiques. I think they've done wonderful, but I'm gonna say that for prospective parents, just like a general thing that I feel like my parents did really well, was, of course, so they actually found out about collage, again, like I had said earlier, through an LGBTQ community center. So I think that would be a great basis as well. But since all of you guys already know about collage, I think just being very involved in collage through a young age, but also being okay if when your kid gets older, if they don't want to be a part of that anymore. Because at the end of the day, I think just respecting laying out everything for your kid, but also letting them know that it's their choice, and making it but being very open with them and honest with them. And again, same with adoption or donor conception. I think just being very open and honest is the most important thing. And also being open and honest about the injustice that our families still face, but also at the end of the day, just letting your kid decide what they want to do with the information. Because some kids do want to be very a part of this community, but others just want to have two moms or have two dads and then that's it, and that's okay as well. So.
I don't think that there's anything that my parents could do. Just because, a lot of my extended family is in the LGBT community. I used to go to church. Met the priest, pastor, whatever you want to call him. He was also gay, and my parents always brought me to Boston just to meet more diverse people. So that actually helped.
Well, I have to say to the audience, I promise I did not see any of that. It seems we have very well adjusted and very kind and well thought out explanations for not changing anything, which is great. Well, first of all, I want to thank all three of you for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. If you are going to be jumping off, please check the chat. There is an evaluation form that I just put, and Stephanie just put into the chat as well. We're just asking you to take a few minutes so that we can improve this and other programming for next year. But for everyone else, please give a virtual thumbs up to our panelists, Michaela, Elior, and Katie. Thank you again so much for being here with us this afternoon and spending some time talking about yourselves and your families. It's been a wonderful conversation. Again, I'm the executive director of COLAGE. If you'd like to learn more about our organization and what we do, you can check us out at colage.org, colage.org. Also, all of the folks here are members of our Youth Action Board. We are primarily youth serving in the work that we do, even though we are expanding into work for collagers as they age and as they take care of their now aging parents. So while we're expanding, I just want to plug, if you know of a fantastic collager teenager who would like to be a part of a group of other fantastic collager teenagers doing this type of work and working with us to provide programming year-round for people with the same life experience, we would love to hear from them. There's information on our website where you can sign up to be a part of the Youth Action Board, and you're always welcome to email me directly, and my email should be on the About Us page on the website. And I think that's it for us. Stephanie, do you have any other closing thoughts you want to throw out there?
I just want to thank the three panelists again so much for their willingness to participate in this, to be open and honest with their answers, and to let all of us parents know that we're doing a good job, because if our kids, generally speaking, are like you three, then we as a community are doing a great job. So I was actually texting Michaela's parents, telling them what a great job she was doing. So if I had your other parents' phone numbers for your other youth on the panel, I would also have been texting them to tell them what amazing humans you are as well. I also just want to say thank you to everyone who attended the conference. This is our wrap-up panel. Thanks to Jordan for putting this together and for all the great work that Collage does. And truly appreciate everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everyone again. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. Bye.